In what ways has COVID-19 isolation left U.S. society hurt and confused? By Lionel
Elvis. Elvis.
So we have all lived through COVID, and although we may have mixed opinions, we all know that it left Americans hurt and confused. Diseases like COVID have affected us in similar ways before. According to Brill.com, the Black Death can be considered to be one of the main factors to the closure of the East-West trade routes and the reduction in Iran's trade and with the world. The closure left people isolated because they could not converse and share info with other nations. The image in the top right shows how the Black Plague affected most of all of Europe, and how the white arrows are land and sea routes, and how people couldn't go along those routes because they would be in danger of contaminating other nations. This example shows us how the past is similar to the present and why it was such a big problem. An article from Science Direct shows us how now we are dealing with similar circumstances. COVID-19 is affecting psychiatry in ways that are evolving. Psychiatric patients are being faced with isolation, loneliness, and bereavement, and fear. The isolation COVID caused has left America in shambles, and there's only a few things we can do to cope with the past.
So one solution we discovered that would help cure this isolation that is caused is to create a better vaccine. Although we created a very effective first vaccine that was 91% effective to all its patients, it had enough ineffectiveness to cause doubt, and it was also not available enough to provide to all 7 billion people on this planet. So for one, according to Thomas R. Frieden, who was the former director of the Center of Disease Control and Prevention under the Obama administration, there's a kind of narrative that it isn't quite accurate in the media these days, said Dr. Frieden. Most of the people who are not yet vaccinated aren't strongly opposed to being vaccinated. They just haven't had the vaccine be as convenient as it should be. So what this means is that he believes most people are not afraid to get the vaccine or scared of its effects, but more just that it's not convenient enough for them to get it, and it is unavailable to them. One of the limitations to this solution is that it's very difficult to make a vaccine this accessible to all of the people on Earth. To make it that accessible, you have to make it accessible to all the different countries on Earth, where like third world countries like Haiti, it would be very difficult to provide a vaccine. Next slide.
A second solution would be to allow citizens to be more involved in voting for laws and for what they receive as treatment from COVID, which will allow the virus to be seen as more of a battle fought together rather than by two sides. According to Talia Portney, among 908 participants, 75.2% engaged in social distancing, 94.4% willing/able to self-quarantine, and 60.1% intended to get vaccinated. With the idea of being able to contribute, we see high numbers of people coming together to combat COVID. By being able to allow citizens to get more involved in the laws retaining COVID, we are allowing a strong fight for a common cause.
To sum up, we believe that our first solution, vaccines, is the best solution because it would limit the impact of diseases if another outbreak were to occur. We believe this because vaccines are proven to be effective. According to the Mayo Clinic, COVID vaccines are 91% effective. This makes this solution more realistic and more feasible than voting because we have tangible evidence that it works. Also, us humans have already gone through the process of creating and distributing these vaccines, so it makes it more efficient and easier for us to do so. However, there do come some limitations with this solution, namely distribution and coordination. One big problem with distributing the COVID vaccine was the fact that there was a large amount of distribution inequality. This meant that more developed countries got access to the vaccine before less developed countries. And this made it so that these vaccines weren't able to represent everyone equally. Also, just the process of distributing to everybody was very difficult. As after scientists made it, they had to distribute it to governments, local governments, companies, and finally people. This was very hard for people to make digital appointments and get the vaccine when it was hard to ship it out to everybody. Lastly, there was a lot of vaccine hesitancy, and that's not effective results, because as people were hesitant to get the vaccine, this took them on as having a higher risk and made everyone have much higher risk of getting COVID itself. But due to the tangible evidence that vaccines provide, we believe that this is the best choice.
Tate.
How are you guys you can do is have you have to have it somewhere. Each solution should be analyzed against itself before it is compared. I think it's best to do that while you're talking about your solution. Because otherwise you start to talk about something and you have to